and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where again we have a lot to talk about on the channel. We have a lot to get through here to understand where we are as a club. What is the direction? And where do we stand on Dani Olmo? And as well too, we can't forget about Pau Victor either. We're going to be talking about both of their situations on the channel today. And get this, guys, Barca have hope. They still have hope of registering both players. Is that hope genuine? We're going to be talking about that situation. We've got more discussion too on Laporta today, following on from what we discussed yesterday, and also big quotes today. Interesting timing from Frenkie de Jong. He has spoken out and he's been very, very honest in his words as speculation continues to ramp up surrounding his future, guys. So there's lots on the agenda. Sit back. I'm not sure if I'm going to say relax right now, because I don't know if any Barca fan is relaxing, but if you can, then certainly do that. Let's do this. Because, okay, guys, let's follow on from yesterday when, of course, we discussed the fact that Dani Olmo and Pau Victor are no longer registered to play for Barca. That's the situation right now. And what that means is they cannot play for the rest of the season in La Liga. And for that reason too, because they're not registered to a domestic league, they also cannot play Champions League football. So both of those players right now are ultimately sat there thinking, what on earth is happening? And the reason why yesterday I got so angry, so frustrated, and why I said that the club had been embarrassed by this situation is that yesterday there was a training session. I mean, of course there is now. We're getting back into the swing of things. We're getting ready to play some really, really important matches in January, and yet the players, and not just Olmo, not just Pau Victor, but every single player will be affected by this situation. In training yesterday, apparently, the mood wasn't so good. It was kind of uncertain. It was maybe a bit awkward because Olmo and Pau Victor, they were training, but for all they know right now, they have absolutely no hope of actually playing. And apparently, plenty of the other Barcelona players had to go over to them and just comfort them a bit, put a bit of an arm around them and say, oh, it's going to be okay. But they don't know that. That's the thing right now. Nobody inside of the club, not the players, and Hansi Flick as well. He's got a plan for these games to come. This is not how a top club operates, and no matter what happens with these registrations, this is not the way that you conduct business there. And also, just to follow on, we spoke yesterday about potential loan deals. Could that happen if they couldn't play for the rest of the season? Could they then go and play for another club for maybe 6 months and then come back in the summer to again play for Barca? But that also cannot happen. Now, we know that Dani Olmo could become a free agent if he wanted to, if he was to exercise that clause in his deal that would allow him to just walk away for nothing, to leave the club for free and just go and join somebody else. But it doesn't look as though he's going to do that. But even loan deals here for Olmo, for Pau Victor, for example, that cannot happen because they are not registered. If you are not registered there again at a club, you can't go out on loan to another one. And that is why, think about it, all the seasons that have gone by, all the summers that have passed, the likes of Longley, Serginho Dest, when they've gone out on loan in the past when we've seen it happen, they've always had to be registered before those loans took effect there. So that's really, really interesting. These players are stuck until this situation is resolved. But right now, guys, is there any hope at all? That's the question. That's the question that we're all asking ourselves. I think that's the question that's being asked inside of the club. And you know what? On Barca's side, there is actually still hope. On Barcelona's side, from within the club, from within the board, they still have optimism. They still have faith that Dani Olmo will be registered as a Barcelona player again. And let me explain why they have hope, and the only route, really, the only conceivable way that this could actually happen. Because let me just stress once again, guys, that a player cannot be registered twice by the same team in the same season. Now that Barca missed the deadline, and they did, it was December the 31st, they had to register Olmo before then, because now he's removed from Barca's squad list. If you go on the La Liga website, he is no longer registered with Barca. Now, you are not permitted to register him again in the same season for the same club. Those are clear rules there from La Liga and from RFEF. Now, the only remaining route that Barca have, the only conceivable option they have to explore is in the case of something called force majeure. Now that right there is a legal term that is used to describe an extraordinary event or circumstance beyond the control of all parties that prevented them from fulfilling their legal obligations. Now, according to Barca, they are actually going to go down this route and they are going to claim their force majeure in the case of Dani Olmo and Pau Victor there in terms of the documentation, because Barca will say that they submitted all of the paperwork before the deadline happened on December the 31st. They will go to La Liga, they will go there to the courts, whoever will listen, they will say, okay, we did submit our paperwork on time, it was being reviewed, it was being there looked into. That maybe is beyond our control. You know, we did everything on our side that we felt we needed to. But the problem is, our La Liga, our RFEF, are they going to accept that? Because I would actually compare this here to, say, the Premier League, because if you've actually listened here to deadline day, lots of deals that happen, lots of transfers that take place, a lot of the time there, a lot is done just before that deadline. Everything is done very, very late, but often in those situations, clubs submit a deal sheet very late in the hour there, where you essentially submit the essentials to that deal, but then you gain permission for an extension. You can actually work later on from that deadline, providing you submit that deal sheet. But the problem here that Barca have, in my opinion, is that nothing like that happened. You know, nothing like that exists in this case. They did submit their paperwork, some of it, you know, they had one guarantee, they didn't have two that they actually required, and the problem was, they didn't have the money from the VIP boxes. That was what they needed. That was what La Liga was looking for. Their proof that they had sold 100 million worth of VIP boxes and they needed to show the money, and they couldn't because they hadn't had it yet. Now, Barca's only hope is that they expect to get the money, and they believe that by January the 3rd, they will have the money to support the documents they submitted before the deadline. But I'm just thinking, is this going to be enough? Absolutely no idea. None of us know right now whether Barca ultimately have a leg to stand on. Now, the Barcelona board maintain it will happen. It will get done. And there are actually rumours that not only regarding the registrations of Olmo, the registration there of Pau Victor, but not only that, Barca actually believe if this all went through in the end, they would even return to the one-for-one rule, which we have been waiting for a long, long time. But that still hasn't even happened. And just to elaborate there on what Barca's plan may even be, when we're talking here about that force majeure, some sort of extraordinary event that happened beyond our control, well, right now we're hearing in the media that Barca are going to claim that the delay about the arrival of the funds there from the VIP boxes, why we couldn't present the money by the deadline, they are going to claim that it was due to the fact that on December the 25th and December the 26th, there were holidays in Spain. And so there wasn't enough time in order to get those funds transferred. That is the route that they are going down. That is their one hope. But at this point, guys, it's all speculation. It's all hope and faith and, hoping that it all falls into place. But will it? That's the question. We don't want to be talking here about hypothetical situations. We have waited day upon day upon day, right the way into December. Why they left it all to the last minute again, I do not know. Why did that sale for the VIP boxes only go through in the final days of this registration period? I have no idea. They knew this time would come. They knew there that the registration licenses of Olmo, of Victor, they were counting down by the day. And can I just be really, really honest with you guys here, thinking there about Barca's claim, as much as I actually want it to work, I really do want us to get Dani Olmo registered here to avoid this really embarrassing situation, or at least here stop it from continuing and making everything even worse. But that excuse about holidays on the 25th and 26th of December, who could have seen that coming? That it was a Spanish holiday on those dates? We didn't know that in advance, did we? It happens every year. Are you for real? Why wait that long then? Please guys, it's like banging your head against a wall. It's ridiculous. It's like trying to get out of homework there at school. It sounds like the kind of excuse you bring in and give to a teacher from a child. Come on. And let me just say, guys, what I want from the club, regardless of what happens, regardless of what the ultimate outcome is, by tomorrow, say afternoon, they need to come out. We need to hear something official from the club, because I do not want all of this left to Hansi Flick, who, by the way, has a press conference tomorrow there ahead of Barca's game at the weekend against Barbastro in the Copa del Rey, and there is absolutely no way that the club should allow Hansi Flick to be the one to face the media and to basically front up to all of these questions about the registration issues. There is only one man and one man only who should be answering for what we have seen over these past few days. That is not Hansi Flick. It is Joan Laporta. He is the only man responsible for this mess, and as a result, we expect explanations. Which does indeed, guys, bring me nicely on to the man himself, to talk again about Joan Laporta, because quite honestly, looking at this whole situation, looking at Barca and Laporta still having faith, still believing that by tomorrow it could all still be resolved. Now, there is maybe 1 or 2% of me that thinks they could actually do that, because Barca have worked miracles in the past. You know, they have managed to do things that you never saw coming, that nobody saw coming, and they always find a way to surprise. But at the end of the day, guys, even if they manage to do that, even if we do somehow pull off another miracle, we don't want to keep resorting to this. We don't want to keep being pushed into this situation. And that is why I think Laporta needs to have a good look. And he needs to have a good look around him right now. Because from what we're hearing in the media, he's not thinking at all about resigning. Now, look, I didn't expect him to do that at all. He is not one that is just going to throw in the towel. But remember, and he'll be well aware of this, there is a presidential election in 2026. Now, that is absolutely massive for him, because he wants to run again. He wants to have another tenure here, another 4 years as the Barcelona president. But already now, after this situation, Victor Font has already been doing quite a lot of talking. There's going to be lots more candidates, of course, popping up as well. And I am not saying, based on what we talked about yesterday with Laporta as president, I am not saying there's another candidate out there who would have done a better job, who would have taken over from Bartomeu and did better than Laporta has done. My feeling is not that he hasn't done anything good during his time this time round as president. But my problem is he has deviated from the good path that he was on. When he originally came in, the frameworks were very good. He had good people around him. He had a good team inside of that board, and good decisions, calculated decisions, were being made for the good of the club. Because you know Laporta, guys, as a president, as a person, he's an emotional guy. You know, he's very, very passionate. He wears his heart on his sleeve. I wouldn't say Laporta doesn't care about Barca. I don't think anybody there could say that about him. But he's also somebody, he's a character who likes a bit of a gamble. You know, he likes a challenge to take on these big operations to show really, we can do this, we are Barca, look what I'm able to achieve. And ultimately my question right now is that Laporta, he may like a challenge, but who is challenging him? Who inside of the club right now is ultimately strong enough there and comfortable in their area of the club to ultimately say, are you sure? You know, are you sure this is the road that we want to go down? Can we pull off this deal? Is this a smart decision? Is it a logical decision for the club? Because remember before we spoke yesterday, Mattia Almani, he was an incredible thinker inside of the club. He was somebody who came back to the club there with Joan Laporta. They were a very, very strong team. You even had Jordi Cruyff in that time as well, who was experienced at boardroom level. I mean, who have you got now inside of the club in terms of decision making? You've got Deco there in the sporting side of things. Inside of the board, he's still relatively new in his role. He has still not seen anything like this before. He effectively doesn't know what he's doing. He is not going to stand up and ultimately challenge Joan Laporta. And I just think right now, there's not enough thinking going on. There's not enough planning, especially here in the medium to long term. We have to sort that out. We have to go back to what Laporta was originally doing at the club. The decision-making process, the path that we were on, that was a lot more solid. That actually gave me confidence with where this club is heading. Right now, everything is too emotional. Every decision, it seems impulsive. Just look at the sacking and the way the sacking of Xavi actually happened. And once again, that is not the way that you manage a top club. But indeed, guys, thinking here about our long-term future, thinking about, you know, what we can do to put ourselves on that better path. Well, in the aftermath to this whole situation with Dani Olmo, with Pau Victor, well, there's a lot of talk about the players that we still do have registered, though. And where is the money going? You know, in terms of our wage bill, where is the money going? And that brings us on to the topic of Frenkie de Jong. Because, of course, now the media are sort of saying, we need to look at that contract. We need some sort of resolution in terms of those wages. And things are even starting to ramp up here when thinking about the January window. But before we talk about that, let's talk about Frenkie himself, because he has come out in a very, very honest interview here today, and we've got to talk about those quotes, because first of all, guys, he spoke about his ankle, and he actually spoke here about the fact that it is on his mind, even though before he said it was a lot worse. He was busy with his ankle day and night. He was always thinking, has it gotten bigger? Is it swollen? Is there a reaction there? He said, I've sort of forgotten about all of that now, but he said, my ankle will always be something that I have to take into account. I always have to give it extra attention. Some players have that with their knee, and I have that too with my ankle. So that is basically proof there that even though De Jong, he's able to play now, he is essentially fully recovered without pain maybe in that ankle problem, but it's not as though it's not there at all. It's not as though now he has absolutely no concerns. It's still in his mind, and that may also be affecting not only the way that he plays, but also the way that he can train. But he also admitted, guys, and I was quite surprised to hear this from De Jong, he said, I have to admit that when I signed for Barcelona, I didn't imagine to win only one league title, one Copa del Rey, one Spanish Super Cup after only 4 years. He said, I expected at least double, so that disappoints me. Things happen on the road that you cannot predict there. So De Jong is ultimately saying his time at Barca, from a personal point of view, it's been a disappointment to him. He would have expected more titles, more silverware, more glory, more success at the club that simply has not arrived, as maybe all of us thought, by the way, when he came in from Ajax, the player that we signed, the quality that we had in the team. I think it's understandable there for everybody to say that is a disappointing return. And then he did speak about his contract situation. He said, my contract renewal, it's an issue for the papers here in Barcelona, but for me, it is not. He said, I want to play football, but after that, I will see what the club wants to do with me, and then I will decide what I want to do together with my agent and with my family. So De Jong, he always says there that the papers, the media, they make a big deal of the contract, a big deal of these negotiations, but for him, he has always stayed very, very calm. But then he added, people think that I want to stay at Barcelona forever because life outside of football is so good here. And he admitted it is good, but he said it's still less important to what happens on the pitch. If I feel that I can't contribute enough, or if the team can't compete, then I would be gone. And those are big words indeed there, because the message with Frenkie has always been that he's very happy living in the city of Barcelona together there with his partner. They are very, very happy in the city, and they have been now for many, many years. But he says there that is less important than what happens there out on the field. And he feels that if he can't contribute, or if the team can't compete, he will leave the club. So that's the first indication we have seen, maybe, and together with his words about his time at Barca being a bit of a disappointment, those are the first indications that maybe he's open to looking elsewhere. The first time here that we're talking about the football, we've spoken as well about the 2026 World Cup. The season after this one, it is massive for every single player that wants to play, that wants to be at their best at that World Cup. And De Jong maybe now is starting to think more about his future, because apparently right now, guys, there's going to be big talks in Barcelona, and I think they need to get serious with every single player because of the issues that we're having, because of the clear issues we're having financially. We can't afford to hang around with anybody here, and with De Jong's contract, it needs attention. It needs there to have some sort of agreement on the table, one way or the other. And apparently now, if Barca do not get anywhere, if Barca cannot make any inroads in this new deal, he will be on the market. And even in January now, we are hearing that Frenkie could leave. But again, it depends on him. I cannot stress that enough here. Barca, they may want him to go. They may want to release those wages from the wage bill, which would free up an incredible amount. But it's all irrelevant. He has that deal until 2026. And it's only when he decides, it's only when he is open to leaving, that it can actually happen. But those words here today, that's the first time I've ever heard from De Jong that, I could actually leave. If things aren't going the way that I want or the way that the club wants, then it is possible for me to leave Barcelona, guys. And what do you make of those quotes from Frenkie de Jong? Do you feel as though something is about to happen? Do you feel as though January could be very, very important? Do you feel as though this could drag on right up until the summer? And especially with everything else going on at the club right now, seeing the way that things are being handled behind the scenes, I mean, what do you expect to happen? What do you want to happen here? And is there any part of you that still believes that Barca could register Dani Olmo by tomorrow? Let me know down below, guys. Is there any faith? Is there any faith left out there amongst you guys? Let me know all that down below. I hope that you have enjoyed here the update on the channel once again here today. I will be back whenever there is news, and I'm absolutely sure there's going to be some very soon, one way or another, guys. I will catch all of you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. But until next time, as always, Vesca, el Barça.